Alright, so it's been a while since I've made a video. I didn't trade Thursday or Friday of last week, and then yesterday I took two trades, but it ended up being a break-even day, so I figured I'll just add those trades onto this video. So I know my chart looks a little cluttered here with all this crap. I'll clear it up a bit, but yesterday, we had SMT at these lows, and I'll just run through the trades quick, but after some, back and forth action, we had these stacked highs around here, all this buy side up here. I was looking for this to become the draw, and I was going to target this high here, and the model started to look relatively clean. I wouldn't call it clean, but it didn't look bad going into lunch. So we came down, held OTE, this range, this placed up. This is a 5-minute fair value gap here, and the entry that I took, these times are off, but because this is 1 o'clock, so I gotta fix that. But lunch started right over here. So this is the 5-minute fair value gap. We came down, clean internal model, took out this low, displacement up, 1-minute fair value gap, like, just textbook clean model. So took the stab long here, and we took out this most recent swing high, and I'm not going to show ES, but because I don't feel like finding it, but there was an SMT here. ES was much stronger yesterday and today, but there was like a clear SMT, and in my opinion, we just respected this 1 minute, and then these two down close candles right here would be considered, your order block, right? So there's no reason that we should come down to my entry point, right? We still have the top of this 1 minute, and we have that whole order block. If we're gonna bounce, it should be right here. We also have this inverse fair value gap, so there's absolutely no reason why we should come back to my entry. And with the SMT and just choppy price action throughout the day, move stop to right under this low, and I got stopped at break even. Totally cool with that. The model looked really clean in my opinion. OTE of this range, bounced OTE of this range, 5-minute fair value gap, internal model, textbook. So totally okay with totally okay with getting stopped at a break even. No problem in that. And then later on in the day, when we did end up taking out this draw, or this internal high here, and I mean, price was just disgusting. Throughout that whole lunch, I'm glad I got stopped out there, because this was just disgusting. And then came up, took that high, and displaced. So in my opinion, this looked like we were just going to have a low resistance liquidity run to the downside. All this accumulation, we wick the high and then just boom, displace. So we have this 5-minute fair value gap right here. I was looking to see if I could play a little internal model. So we came up, took this high, and I took my entry on the 15-second. We had these stacked highs here. We came up, we took that, pushed down, and I basically entered off of we had this little fair value gap, this inverse, and then this is also like your breaker here on the 15-second, right? I mean, obviously there's not a ton of confluence just looking at the 15-second, but I was trying to overlap the models. So you had the little fair value gap, the inverse, we broke structure, your breaker, right? So internal model, went short right there, and I was targeting the next low, which was here. We ended up coming down, taking that low-hanging fruit objective, which, to be honest, if I'm playing a little model like this, I probably should have taken it off here. But I thought, to me, it really looked like this was gonna run to the downside, so I thought this was gonna be the low-hanging fruit objective. But anyway, we took that, right? So I moved stop to break even, got stopped. So, all right. So that was yesterday. Now, let's look at today. So, right, zooming out a little bit, like, I do, think we come take all this liquidity down here, but it seems like, with these higher time frame SMTs, ES was holding this 1 hour. We're looking really bullish so far. Seems like we're gonna save that for a little bit later of a date. Maybe NQ comes into OTE here, and I'm thinking maybe we form some sort of SMT here at the highs, but we'll have to see what price does. But anyway, we had the CPI data or whatever it was at 8:30. So classic, you come down, massive wick, and then bounce to the upside, right? And in the beginning of the day, so this looks like, clean market maker model here, sell side of the curve, buy side of the curve. So this is the, the draw that I was looking for. And in the beginning of the day, we had a big SMT there because ES had taken that. It was relatively shallow of a run through this high, but I considered that taking the high, so I wasn't really looking for longs, and so I missed out on a really great opportunity today on either indice. But NQ comes down, we took this low, ES did not, forming this bullish SMT. And on the 5 minute, I was looking at this sort of like this 5 minute fair value gap here, and sort of this this whole like order block. I was looking to take shorts from here because I thought that this larger SMT was going to outweigh this, when in reality it was just I guess we were just a little uncorrelated in the beginning of the day. But let's zoom into the 1 minute on both of them. So here's our 1 minute. So we had the bigger SMT and then this SMT as well. So I was not looking for longs here. I was pretty much looking for us to displace to the downside, and then I was gonna look for like a short model after that. So my mind was not visualizing the possibility of longs here, if that makes sense. Like, sort of like a pattern recognition thing. My mind was just like looking for the short, and then like we ripped to the upside, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks pretty obvious now that I'm looking at it. It was sort of just the SMTs that were throwing me off, and this has happened to me multiple times. Not multiple, many times actually, where I get like discouraged from like an SMT like this, and I don't take a trade, and it ends up working. So I don't know. I think I have to sort of chill out a little bit on the lower time frame SMTs, but at the same time sometimes they do play out. But I don't know. So just something to put in my journal. But looking at ES, great setup on ES. So you have the external or this high from the morning, and then this is your silver bullet fair value gap, right? So we come in here, and then we form a little internal model, right? We sweep this low, we displace up, another 1 minute fair value gap. You could have longed in here, and just beautiful straight line run right up to that external level, and it ended up being sell side buy side of the curve here. Looking at NQ, zoom in a little bit, it ended up, this SMT was really just, us forming some more low resistance liquidity here, right? All of these highs here and here. Another thing I should have probably noticed was we had relative equal highs here. Like, I should not have been looking to short here, especially after accumulating this this low resistance liquidity right here. Like, if you can see, relative equal highs here, here, like all of these stacked highs. This should be like a no short zone here. I should not have been looking for shorts there. And we end up holding, I have both of these marked out. This was the like real silver bullet, like 1 minute fair value gap. Then we also had this big one. And we had, our little 3 drives pattern, boom, 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 and then displace up. We sort of consolidated inside of this 30-second bearish fair value gap. But while we were consolidating inside of that, we were holding the bullish one. So, we were not rejecting from this bearish fair value gap. We were holding the bullish one. And, of course, there's no setup here like a 2022 model sort of setup where you break structure and then pull back, because it's a low resistance liquidity run, right? Like, this is a true low resistance liquidity run here. There's just zero pullback, right? Like, we don't take any lows except for that, and just straight all the way up, to the external draw, 108 points. So I think for setups like this, the way I should probably take something like this is right when you inverse, because this is the only bearish fair value gap. This is like the last stand for the bears, So right when we inverse that, you could long, or the break of structure here or here. I've seen a lot of people, with different ideologies and stuff with ICT, some people will trade right at the break of structure, instead of looking for the break, then pull back to a fair value gap. They'll just trade it right away at the break of structure, which I guess makes sense, right? It's the same thing, except one of them you're looking for the pullback to the fair value gap, but both of them require you to break structure, right? So I think it's relatively valid, and I think in this in scenarios, only low resistance liquidity run scenarios like this, I think that's kind of the move going forward, because I haven't traded a low resistance liquidity run in a bit. It's been a while since I've seen a clean one. But yeah, like right when they displace, that's it. There's usually no pullback. If you ever see scenarios like this, it's like right when you break these highs, we're just gone. I'm not longing in here. So, so I think in scenarios like this, longing right at that break of structure is the move. And then, so what, maybe it does pull back to a fair value gap. Well, my stop in this scenario, even if I got like a bad fill, that's a very reasonable stop. And you have this fair value gap, right? You have, your order blocks, you have the inverse, right? Like this area should hold. So, you know, I don't see anything wrong in that ideology, only if it's a low resistance liquidity run where you expect price to just straight line to the upside. But anyway, I didn't take that trade, so that's the first setup that I missed out on. But then we came up, no more SMT. So we had this buy side level, right? That was the draw. We had a 4-hour fair value gap right in here. And so, you know, I'm still relatively like holding on to the bias of the possibility that we reject from this range and go take out these lows, but so I was open to the possibility of that happening, right? So we had the 4-hour. Let's zoom into the 5. So we have this high. We come up, sweep the high, displace down. This is your market structure shift. And this is your breaker here, right? So these are the last down close candles before you took liquidity and then displaced through it. So this is your breaker. This is like your unicorn 5-minute fair value gap here. So I wasn't particularly confident that we were going to necessarily go to this low. Like, you know, we could have. But I was confident from this structure, like we're at least going to pull back to a fair value gap. Maybe discount. Did we come to discount of this range? We did not. Did not come to discount of the range. But, let's see. I was definitely confident we were going to come down into these imbalances, you know, like 15-minute, 5-minute. It looked like a good setup to me. So, zooming in. I wasn't going to take the trade just because of this, right? So I'm just looking at this 5-minute saying to myself, you know, we have this big 1-minute too. Just thinking like, all right, does this provide a setup? So we come into OTE the range, still holding the 5-minute. And the 30-second chart was honestly pretty gorgeous. You know, this is a very clean looking model here inside of the 5-minute. So, you know, you make this high, retrace a little bit, take the high, then here's your market structure shift, but I wasn't going to take it yet. I was being careful, being patient. You know, you could have taken that imbalance and it would have worked, but finally we reject with a clean 30-second. And then I shorted, like we came up wicked, and then I market ordered. So I was, my entry was a little poor. It would have been much better just to limit order here. You know, I would have gotten like 3 or 4 extra points, but I marked out the standard deviation and it lined up perfectly with this low. And I did think we were going to go lower, but this is just the low-hanging fruit, you know, just a clean bread and butter, you know, just take it and walk. And if you've seen in my recent videos, I've been taking some losses recently. You know, I took a couple days, you know, to not trade and try to stay really disciplined. So I'm really trying to like bunker down and, you know, really try to make sure I'm taking clean setups, no bullshit. So, you know, I looked at this and I was like, you know what, 30 points, you know, 30 points can make you quit your job. 30 points can make you fucking rich. So no need to worry about the money. You know, risk to reward is fine. It's about 2.5, totally fine. You know, 30-point move to the downside. It's just logical for me to, you know, like if I had 5 contracts, you would 100% scale something here, 100%. So if I'm trading one contract, why wouldn't I take it off here? You know, that's just greedy. So this is just a clean draw. Took it off. We ended up bouncing a bit before rejecting some more. And I'm actually curious, where exactly do we stop? Alright. I was gonna say, if we tapped that 4 and bounced, I would have shat myself. Yeah, so anyway, took that trade, and I was even looking for some shorts up in here because we came to that like 1 to 1.5, so I'm looking for like maybe OT of this range, but you know, nothing really looked too clean to me, and we just kind of ran through that and then just kind of kept grinding to the upside. The toughest part for me is that NQ and ES are like totally different. Like, to me, ES is just bullish. Like, I mean, we retraced pretty heavily here. You know, I'm sure you could have taken some sort of trade in here, but like looking at the 1 hour, we rejected from this 1 hour fair value gap and then just tapped this 1 hour order block and just completely ripped to the upside. Like, this is extremely bullish. But then when I look at NQ, I'm bearish. So that's like the hard part for me, is I don't really know how to like form like a really confident bias in this scenario, because I think ES is taking out this draw, right? Maybe even before I wake up tomorrow. But NQ does not look like it's necessarily going to run this high. So we'll see. Like I was saying earlier, maybe we form like a big SMT here. But either way, since we're looking at the 1 hour chart, you know, you would have to see some like big displacement to the downside for me to start to believe that we're actually going to go run these lows. But you know, looking at ES, pretty bullish for the time being, and I'm just going to try to, you know, stay on the 1 hour and the 15-minute charts and just try to formulate a bias from there. And yeah, just try to stay as disciplined as possible. I'm doing a pretty good job recently of being disciplined. You know, like there's been multiple days that I just didn't take a trade at all, so that's good in my opinion. So gonna try to stay on that route, and hopefully you guys made some money today. If I trade tomorrow, I will make a video. So peace out, have a good night.